In November of 2023, I started keeping a mini sketchbook. It went with me everywhere, and after a year, I had a collection of hand-drawn memories. And after that, I just kept drawing. In September of 2024, I finished my second sketchbook, and I'd love to share my sketches and experiences with you. Hi, if you don't know me, I'm Elise, a Colorado-based artist who is always in pursuit of finding the joy in the little things. So when we last left off, I had just arrived for a 3-month stay in Geneva, Switzerland. So I had the privilege of beginning this next sketchbook in a very inspiring setting. My very first page was a charming street I came across walking through the old historic city center. And in a fitting fashion, the second drawing had to be coffee and a croissant. But little did I know, this drawing would be the catalyst for a friendship with our local baker, who saw me drawing in his shop and struck up a conversation. This particular bakery was on the street just below our apartment, and maybe I'm biased, but I think Boulangerie Martin has the best pain au chocolat in Geneva. So here's the interior of the university library, where I spent a lot of time working before we had Wi-Fi at the apartment. It has these big, magnificent, tilted windows that you can sit underneath and watch the rain come down. And next to that are some vine details that really intrigued me, wrapping around a tree. On the next page, we have 2 drawings where beer is a common theme. The first being a local neighborhood bar. You're seeing my own reflection in the bar back mirror. And the second is a post-hike brew after our hike up onto Mont Salève, a cliffy mountain that overlooks Geneva that you'll see in just a second. But first, here are some studies of some leaves that I found, as well as the Edelweiss flower, which I didn't actually get to see in person, but it's a symbol of Switzerland. The view of Mont Salève from the city is one of my favorites, and this particular evening, the moon was rising just above the cliffs, and paragliders were jumping off into the dusky sky. This is a little Italian corner shop in our neighborhood. There was always colorful, fresh fruit outside of the boxes and the crates, and I drew this on the train to Lausanne, which is located across the lake, so it's a little wonky. And then I got a little experimental and graphic with some coffees later on that same day. Here we have a few more city sites. The first is a nice little outdoor cafe, and the second was drawn on a day trip to Vevey, another town on the edge of Lake Geneva. And on to the first trip away from Switzerland, and my first ever visit to Paris. This first drawing was the view that I accidentally discovered on the other side of an upstairs bathroom window in a restaurant. And later I realized I happened to be overlooking a pretty famous and historic Parisian passageway. We also visited the Musée d'Orsay, where I got to see The Little Dancer by Degas, as well as a bunch of other Impressionist art that I nerded out about. From Paris, I took a train to Chartres, where I met up with a friend who lives there. I was absolutely blown away by the cathedral there. It's dubbed the Notre Dame of Chartres, and at night we got to see a really cool artistic film that they projected onto the facade of the cathedral. They mapped out elements of the architecture, and the artwork interacted with the building, and I'd never seen anything like that before. Another highlight of that trip were the pastries, of course. Also, I did a quick sketch of the rose window in the Paris Notre Dame as I was waiting to catch my train back to Geneva. So my 26th birthday was definitely one for the books. I got to spend it in Florence, Italy, a city that's very special to me. My experience there during my semester abroad really spurred my love for travel. I did unfortunately grab the wrong sketchbook on this trip, so these 2 drawings of the Duomo and gelato are reflections, but I still feel like I was able to capture the moment. From there, we went on to Barcelona for a few days, where I was enchanted by the famous Bishop's Bridge. I also got to spend an entire afternoon picnicking and painting in the sand. I then traded Spain's warm beaches for a snowy day in Bern, the first big snow of the season that delayed trains and caused general chaos. Switzerland is known for having a very punctual train system, and it was kind of funny to hear people muttering in the stations about how the fabric of society is crumbling because of this inconvenience. I don't know, being from rural Colorado, I'm just happy to have trains. From Bern, I took a train to Interlaken for a quick weekend. I'd been there once before in 2018 during my Florence semester, and it was cool to return and find some familiar sights, including the Christmas market. I just wandered around solo and ate way too much bread and cheese while sketching the surrounding mountains and the lake. And I took another train up to Wengen, where I had some pretty incredible snowy mountain views. This next page is a moment of appreciation for all of the places my feet and my boots have taken me and may continue to take me. So we decided to host a Thanksgiving for all of Carl's non-US university friends, who all contributed to the meal and brought food that was either important to them and their cultural background, or a dish that was traditionally Thanksgiving, which hilariously did include marshmallow fluff Jell-O salad. We had individuals from France and Switzerland, of course, but also New Zealand, Russia, China, and Indonesia. Definitely a gathering worth being thankful for. So these next few pages, the coffee cups, the lake, and the unfinished city scene, are from Annecy, France. We had met a couple on the train to Florence who told us that if we ever came to Annecy, which is about an hour away from Geneva, to let them know, and so we did. They invited us into their own home for a traditional raclette dinner where we melted cheese over a variety of meats and vegetables. We talked and laughed, mostly in English, but occasionally we attempted not to butcher French. It was truly a special and unforgettable night, and a reminder that strangers can be kind and the world can actually be quite small. This next page is a passageway between the historic Geneva city center and the promenade overlook. When I was sketching this, a couple of university-age girls came up to me, and they were from the Ukraine, and they were selling the original relief prints to help Ukrainian families in need during the holidays. And so after buying a few pieces from them, they gave me a homemade gingerbread cookie. And the moment really touched me, and it was really lovely to be able to connect over art, and it moved me to see that art could still prevail during times of war and turmoil. This double-page spread is the interior of the downstairs bakery, and Carl is sitting across from me. Carl is currently studying for his master's at University of Geneva, which was one of the reasons I moved here for as long as I did. This was our last trip to the bakery before I had to get on a plane and fly home. One final pain au chocolat. The next 3 months, I would be staying in Colorado, waiting for my tourist visa to reset. And just like that, I was halfway across the world again in less than 24 hours, which always blows my mind a little. It's funny how the world can feel so big and so small all at once. When I got back to Colorado, I was able to connect with some friends, and here are some of them standing around a snowy bonfire. One of the things I was most excited about coming home for the winter was continuing to ski. I started skiing the winter before, so I was eager to keep sharpening my skills, and I kept track of my days this last season, and I clocked around 13. Most of those days were spent skiing solo, so I was proud of myself for just getting out there. Next to that is the obligatory Christmas sketch. I did one from the previous year in my other sketchbook, so I think it's sort of becoming a tradition. These next 2 pages are my New Year's mood board. For 2025, I really wanted to focus on personal growth and confidence. I wanted to continue to travel more, read more, make more art, and focus on enjoying the little moments. Looking back on this now, in November of 2025, I'd say I've stayed pretty true to that vision board, including saving up for the exact camera that I drew on there. So that feels pretty neat. Something I tried to work on this past winter was being okay with slow days, spending time with my cat, my friends, my family. I did get out and ski when I could, and I also started bouldering, which was something I always wanted to get into. But being more mindful about the way I was spending my time seemed to help me appreciate the mundane moments more. In February, I got to go to Moab with my parents, and I made this series of sketches while we were hiking, just mainly trying to capture shapes and movement of the landscape. I really liked how the light was casting a dramatic shadow on this couple after a day of skiing, and so now they live in my sketchbook too. And next to that is just a concept sketch, just kind of exploring those feelings of isolation that can often come up during the winter. This sketch is the view of the Maroon Bells, visible from the Snowmass ski area, which I got to ski for the first time this year. It was a perfect, warm, bluebird day, and as someone who mainly skis my small local resort, This was some fun, big terrain compared to what I was used to. But also, that sketch might be one of my favorites in the book. Next, we've got some more cozy winter scenes. I'm a little spoiled by wood-burning stoves in the wintertime. Waking up and drinking a coffee next to one is unmatched. I drew the next page during a break while skiing with some friends at Loveland. Another amazing day with some really cool runs that allowed me to push myself. Okay, so now that I'm back in the US, I'm starting to go through European pastry withdrawal. But this bakery in Salt Lake City truly rivaled some of the bakeries I tried in France. I was there for a 4-day conference, and I think I went there once a day. Next to that, this was drawn on the last day of my ski season. I had to draw the lifts one more time because this was the final year with Colorado's oldest lift, which had been in use since 1954. An equally cool and terrifying fact. And voila! Just like that, 3 months had gone by and I found myself in Geneva once again, just in time to catch all of the trees in full spring bloom. The next few pages are some sights and activities around Geneva, bouldering with Carl, the interior of another favorite coffee shop where we practice Spanish with the kind woman who owns the cafe from Spain, and the view of Europe's longest bench on the promenade that overlooks the city. That was the bench that I was sitting on drawing the passageway when the girls from Ukraine came up to me, and the same place I drew Mont Salève from. The activity that I love the most, though, is just taking a picnic to the park. This is Parc Lagrange, looking out towards Lake Geneva, and at the time it was absolutely covered in colorful poppies, which are one of my favorite flowers. Well, my love for the Interlaken area of Switzerland, the Bernese Oberland, knows no bounds, and I knew when I came back in the spring I wanted to hike and explore more. Carl came with me this time and we stayed in Wengen. The second page is a view from the hostel we stayed in, a historic lodge that was actually the first hotel ever in Wengen. The first page is the 13,000-foot peak, the Eiger, that sits above the Kleinscheidegg mountain pass we hiked up to. The trails were still very snow-covered, but everywhere we looked, the views were breathtaking. And, of course, the journey wouldn't have been complete without a stop to eat some alpine cheese and meats in the Alps. So, a lot of the trips I went on this year were places I'd already been, but I really like being able to spend more time diving into and really getting to know a place and the culture. I was lucky enough to return to Florence again. I got to spend time playing tour guide for some family members, which was fun, and then I spent the remainder of the time sketching, seeing old friends, and making new ones. I have a separate video about this particular trip to Florence, and I'll link it here if you want to check it out. This painting was a study of one of my favorite Swiss painters, Ferdinand Hodler, that I did in a museum. When I started my first sketchbook, I challenged myself to keep it simple by only using a ballpoint pen to make sure there was no excuse as to why I wasn't drawing. That eventually evolved into using white ink too, and now I've been enjoying the looseness of watercolors. These next two sketches were done on a hike up Dent de Lis. We went into this hike with the intention of spotting a few ibex, but we got a lot more than we bargained for. These guys were so curious and friendly. We would have been happy spotting a few of them on a nearby ridge, but instead, this was the experience we ended up having. I really hope she liked the drawing that I did of her. Next up is a watercolor of the Tuscan countryside from memory. It was a study for a larger painting that I ended up doing later. And beside that is a church steeple in Geneva. I drew that after enjoying lunch from one of the market stalls that pop up in the Plain Palais market a few times a week. Geneva's parks have a lot of different kinds of trees, so I spent a whole day at the botanical gardens doing my favorite thing, eating a picnic in the grass and drawing plants. At this point, it's been a fair amount of time since I'd drawn a pastry and a coffee, so that felt long overdue. And when I'm drawing from life, I like to challenge myself to draw the scene the way it is, and in this case, complete with the tray and the slats of the wooden table. These next few pages are from Edinburgh, where I met up with a few of my good friends from the US. I had some really lovely serendipitous experiences on this trip to Scotland, and I also have a separate video about my time there too, if you want to check it out. Over the course of a few days, when it wasn't raining, I kept returning to the same spot to sketch the cathedral, and I really love how it turned out. Definitely another one of my favorites from this book. The next page is the St. Anthony Chapel ruins, thought to have been built before the 1300s. I drew there as long as my fingers would let me, and then, once they were frozen, I had no choice but to seek out a hot cup of tea and a slice of cake to warm up with. Here we are on the last pages of sketchbook number 2, just enough room to include one drawing of Paris before cracking into my crisp new sketchbook number 3. It felt very fitting to sketch this last page on the steps of the Sacré-Cœur Basilica, looking down at all of Paris spread out in front of me. But that's for another story. Thanks so much for following along, and if you want to stay up to date on sketchbook adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at elisehill.art. You can also subscribe to my Substack, where I occasionally post newsletters that correspond with my travel sketching videos. And last but not least, if you're interested in a print of any of these sketchbook pages, feel free to reach out. Anyways, thanks always for the love and support. Au revoir, ciao for now, bye! Dude. Really? Really? Hi. Thanks. Thank you for that.